begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Dear panel, in the world we live today, parents are highly incentivized on the ideologies of capitalism. That means work, 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 work. Money, 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 money. And they often neglect prioritizing the important things such as actually spending time with their children and carrying out effective parenting. So what is the current status quo all about? We have several things stopping the parent-child bond. We have things like work from the parental perspective, where parents spend large amounts of time working from 6 to 6 and come back home when they're either too tired to interact with their children, or they don't even have that, like they just don't want to at all because they're like maybe like some factors there. Yeah? Then we have the education of the children. We realize that education is very important, but we believe that education is not the only thing we need for a better community. We believe that the parent-child bond is also very essential in producing children that can effectively produce and give back to the community, right? So we realize that the education also greatly hinders the parent-child bond due to assignments such as homework, or in cases where the children live in boarding institutions, so they spend less time with their parents. So what is the problem in this debate? What's the problem that this mandatory holiday is trying to solve? It's trying to solve the issue of absentee parenting. We realize that 42% of children with absentee parents are more likely to commit delinquent crimes. We're talking about crimes like theft. We're talking about antisocial behaviors like drug abuse, alcoholism, all that, because we realize that they lack a moral compass in their life due to the absence of this parental figure, right? What are the effects of absentee parenting? We realize that due to the lack of a relationship with a parent, most of these children often lean into peer groups which may not have enough insight to actually guide them on the right way to life. We realize that the peer influence, they usually seek peer guidance for issues they might face in their academics, for issues they might face in their emotions. And we realize that the peer influence cannot always be reliable and can mostly lead to deviation from the right moral compass. And we believe that it is a parent's mandate to ensure the correct and just moral upbringing of their children for like a morally upright citizen, right? We also realize that the broken relationships between parents and children can carry on to the next generation, with children also neglecting their future children. And we believe that that is creating like a continuous cycle of poor parenting, of more children that face antisocial crimes, that face antisocial behavior, and carry out to degenerate the society, right? So what is side proposition bringing to you today? We're giving you a model that presents cooperation between workplaces and children to ensure that both of these are free on weekends. For people that are married with children, they can perhaps either be totally free on that weekend, or perhaps be given some kind of working in shift. Maybe you work a night shift or a day shift, so that we create opportunity for these people to interact with each other. So and for the children, we see that it will be a mandatory holiday, and they'll be allowed to come back home. Or in the case where their homes are too far away, they can access online sources. They can maybe meet on Skype, Zoom, because we realize this is very crucial to the development of an upright society. So what benefits do we get from ensuring the parent-child bond is maintained? We realize that it maintains good habits and eliminates risky behavior in society, because we're going to have this parent monitoring the changes in the child, like, oh my God, why are you suddenly so gloomy? What's wrong? What's up with your mental health? So we're going to have that conducive development of good habits and the prevention of risky behavior, because they're going to have like a moral compass. They're going to be able to seek guidance from their parents. Then we're also going to see that it will build on the child's self-esteem. We realize that parents are largely a source of moral support. So instead of going to peer groups that will recommend like totally absurd policies, maybe, oh, go take drugs, or good, I'm not saying all of them do, but oh, go take drugs, go smoke, you're going to feel like so high and stuff. We realize that parents will be giving you a moral compass, and we believe that that is greatly important for the development of our society. Thank you.
Do you believe that a large number of people in Uganda are daily income earners?
Yes, I do.
What are your parameters?
My parameters on the large number of people is that they would either work.
What are your parameters?
Define parameters.
What are your parameters? I'm the one who is supposed to cross-examine you. What are your parameters?
Sorry, please rephrase.
What are your parameters, please?
Please rephrase your question. I don't understand.
She does not understand parameters. Thank you. Are you aware of the permissiveness of children in Uganda? Yes, you are aware. Are you aware that children face distractions while at home? Yes, you are aware. Are you aware that this is going to waste a lot of time for children who are supposed to concentrate on their books? Are you aware? Are you aware that they are... Oh, okay, answer. Distances?
I believe that parents and children, the parent-child bond is more important.
Okay, thank you very much. Are you aware that there are some students who may study from Lugazi yet their child lives in Kasese? Are you aware of that distance?
I recall I handled that.
Are you aware? I'm asking you, are you aware? Are you aware? Are you aware?
Yes.
Okay, thank you if you are aware.
The two competing sides at the August House. As the resolution states that this House believes that weekends should be made mandatory holidays for scholars to have bonding time with their parents. My dear judges, this House is going to make weekends a time for children to go and meet their parents, my dear judges. But team proposition comes out and gives us cases like we have work factors, education of children, that this is very important to children, my dear judges, absenteeism of parents, children that affected by will be affected by bad peer influence, my dear judges. But we are looking at a world whereby they asked their first speaker in the cross-examination that they believe that most of the Ugandans are daily income earners, which means that a parent works from Monday to Saturday and comes back home tired, of which sometimes the child is asleep or sometimes the parent is very exhausted. So where do they get that time of talking about this, my dear judges? Because they also acknowledge the fact that most people in Uganda are working from Monday to Sunday, and therefore that makes a parent not have time for their children, my dear judges. They also come here and talk about influence, the bad peer influence, my dear judges. But still in the cross-examination, they asked the first speaker, does she acknowledge the fact that at home, children face more distractions than at school? And she says, yes, she acknowledges that as a fact, my dear judges. Meaning that if you are going to send these children at home for 2 days, they are going to reach home and are distracted by the social media, are distracted by the mass media, my dear judges. And when a child comes back to school, it's very hard to focus on what they have to do, and they'll be thinking of the social media updates. The question in their mind will be, what happened next? So, my dear judges, they also talk about raising an upright society, my dear judges. But you cannot tell me that you're going to acknowledge the fact that a parent has no time for the child, and you're going to raise an upright society, my dear judges. There's no way you're going to raise an upright society when you know that the parent has no time for the child, my dear judges. That's why as team negative, we say that we are not going to make weekends mandatory holidays for scholars, but we are going to introduce mandatory guidance and counseling, my dear judges, in schools that will be done by the teachers and supervised by the government to ensure that this is actually done, my dear judges. Because even Team Affirmative fails to tell us how are they going to ensure that parents are going to pick their children from school and take them home and sit them down and cancel them. Because there's no way you're going to convince the government that, you know what, I cancel my child every Saturday and Sunday, my dear judges. There's no way you're going to convince us when there's no one supervising this process, meaning that the level of effectivity will also not be known, my dear judges. So they also come here and then as team negative, my dear judges, we look at cases whereby a child is studying from a distance far from the parents, my dear judges, where a child spends 1 day traveling on the road. We look at instances where a child is in central Uganda, but the parents are residing in northern Uganda, my dear judges. Meaning that's 1 day traveling to them, and then the child comes back, is bound to come back on Monday, but the child is going to spend another day traveling, my dear judges. My dear judges, are we really going to waste time for children, my dear judges, rather than keeping them in schools where they're going to be guided and counseled? And this will help us achieve also the benefits that Team Affirmative puts on the table. Because through this guidance and counseling, we are going to raise an upright society, my dear judges. Through this guidance and counseling, we shall teach children the effects of bad peer influence, how to identify a bad peer group, and through this guidance and counseling, we are going to impart good morals among the children, my dear judges, because we are going to teach them the values and the culture of society. We are going to teach them how to associate with each other, my dear judges, and there will be no distractions from books, by the internet, by anything like using of toxic substances, use of drugs, my dear judges, because these children are under supervision of people whose work is not divided, my dear judges, and people who have the time to focus on them and know their well-being. With all this said, I rest my case for any cross-examination.
Do you understand the role of parents is not only to guide and counsel, but also to ensure emotional support and love?
In this context, I do.
Do you think that education is the only factor that guarantees the success of a child, and not necessarily mentoring or anything else than the parents?
This is why we are introducing the guidance and counseling, besides the formal education.
The next question. Do you think the relationship you have with your parents is less important than the one you have with your teachers?
I mate if my parents is so much.
Don't you think that parents can impact children more than counselors do?
No, I don't.
Why?
In this context, I don't. Because a parent who spends 7 days at work cannot do anything in my life than a teacher who spends 7 days with me.
Don't you think that time children spend with their parents is good?
That's why we have the school holidays.
Don't you think that because in school holidays people are working, right? So why do you think that there is a time for the parents to be with the child when they're not working?
The other speaker will answer each time is done. I rest my case.
I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. The problem in this debate, as defined by my first speaker, is absentee parenting. We give you analysis from our first speaker that I'm going to add on why a parent-children relationship is important. Why do we bring back the weekends, even though the holidays are there? Is because we see that there is a need of having a frequent relationship between the parents and teachers because of the different things that happen in holidays, like the distractions that they talk about in my debate. Let me start with the rebuttals. First of all, they come and talk about how education is important and how we cannot leave the education and go and talk to the parents. But we give you an example of why the parent and teacher and the children relationship is important. We see that even despite of the fact that these children may have education, without morals and without uprightness, the education will not help them. It means that they're going to reach in the place of work, even with their educational requirements, but still have bad morals, which means that they're not going to sustain the work, which means that these people are going to chase them away. That means a society which is having children who are not even brought up well. 2, they talk about distractions. Yes, we have distractions at home. This is actually an incentive for parents to actually look at these children and help them more from these distractions. We have distractions at home like phones and whatnot. This is why the parents have to come in and actually look at these distractions and remove them from the children. That's why the parents are needed. They come and talk about the distances. We already handled that in our first speech, and we talked about those who are living very far, how we would use the internet or Skype for those who are living far. All we want is an interaction between the parent and the child. They come and talk about working a daily income. But I want to put a stakeholder analysis first of all to show you why these parents will be incentivized to actually leave their work and actually come and cater for these children. Let me start with the parents. 1, the incentive is not to lose these children because 1, we have a problem that we see when the parents and children do not have a relationship. We have problems that come up. 1, we have bad habits because these children do not have a moral compass, right? What do the bad habits bring? They're going to bring a person in society who is having high crime rates, right? Crime rates which are going to lead to suicidal thoughts. Open communication which is needed between a parent and a child to help them realize the children's needs in order to help them means that the child is going to have suicidal thoughts because they do not have a person to talk to, right? Why do we think that the parent is the most important person? Because the parent is the one in the person's life. Hence, the child is more inclined to listen to the parent than to the teacher. Because this is my parent, a person who loves me, a person who brings me to school, so it's not a teacher to be better. So why do we think this is important? The high crime rate, the parent is going to be incentivized to make sure that this child stays not to have suicidal thoughts, not have high crime rates, in order to keep the child closer to them. Why is the government incentivized? Of course, as I told you, we're going to have high crime rates and suicidal thoughts because of failure of a moral compass and open communication. The government is incentivized because it wants to lower down crime rates and suicidal thoughts. So we see that these are mandatory. That means that by the time they are mandatory, the government has a system put in place to enable that the parents do not work on weekends, that the parents are free, hence enabling the point of them working on these weekends. And you see the parents are going to have an incentive because the working daily income, they cannot put income in front of their children's lives and mindset.
Honorable, do you acknowledge the fact that some parents, actually the income they earn in a day is the one the children has to survive on at night?
I believe.
Yes,
Yes, and I feel that...
enough, you believe. Honorable, you still acknowledge the fact that a child undergoing guidance and counseling is nearly like, it's actually like...
I believe that a parent is better. Next question.
No. Just allow me to complete my question, please. Do you acknowledge the fact that a child undergoing guidance and counseling is, by the parent is also undergoing education? Yes or no?
Which kind of education are we talking about here?
Honorable.
We're talking about a relationship between a parent and a child.
Do you acknowledge the
question?
fact that a child undergoing guidance and counseling by a parent is actually undergoing
No.
education?
Next question.
Okay. Honorable, are you aware that distractions are found at home? And by the way,
I already answered that question.
No,
Next one.
Honorable, allow me complete. Are you aware that the distractions found at home are actually affect the children because of lack of parental guidance and absenteeism?
Exactly. That's why we want the
Very
parents
good,
to be
Honorable.
here, because there is lack of parental guidance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear judges of today, the two alternative sides and the House at large. As the motion states, this House believes that weekends should be made mandatory holidays for scholars to have bonding time with their parents. First of all, we look at their status quo. Their status quo is basically basing onto absentee parents. But we look at the holidays that children have always been having. We all know that parents, whether civil or what, always don't work in festive seasons, meaning they have that time to bond with their children. So the bonding time already exists. That's why these holidays keep on being there and they are not changed. Our dear judges, we speak of our alternative. Our alternative comes in and cancels everything that they are trying, the effects of this lack of bonding time. First of all, our alternative says that mandatory guidance and counseling in schools. These are the questions that their side has to answer, not them. Number 1, distance. 2, financial pressure. 3, time wasting. 4, distractions. 5, effectiveness of this. 6, urgency. 7, who will supervise this? Our dear judges, if they answer all that, then we may have a second thought, but we won't. Let's continue. Our dear judges, they came and told us that they believe that parents work at all times. There are parents that basically work to earn money for their supper. And we all know that. Meaning, this parent will be here, staying at home with the parent, basically doing nothing, no supervision, meaning can do anything, he or she can do anything they want, and leave their children to do whatever they're doing during these weekends. They came and told us, we told them about the distractions in homes, and they came and basically told us that these distractions will be controlled by parents. Our dear judges, we still go back to permissiveness. There are families where the child is the one controlling the parent. Families where the child says something and the parent just accepts. So, our dear judges, how will these parents be creating bonding time with their parents? Our dear judges, let's go to the COVID saga. We all saw what happened in the COVID saga when children were left with their parents. Pregnancies, high crime rates. Our dear judges, are we looking at going back to this? Are we going back to this? But this guidance and counseling in schools, our dear judges, will provide, it will teach these people that these crimes are not committed just like that. Our dear judges, guidance and counseling will provide that emotional support to the children. It will provide that security to the children that they need. That bonding time will come in holidays, and we all know it has always been there. So I don't know what they will tell us to convince us, but unless they answer all the questions we ask them, we believe that team opposition wins today's debate. And another thing, our dear judges, note the saga down, the COVID saga down, please. We request for you to note our alternative, please, our dear judges, and compare it with their points. And the counseling and guidance will provide all answers to this. Thank you, our dear judges of today and the two opposite sides.
Do you understand that not all holidays are festive seasons, thus parents can also work on holidays like first term holiday and second term holiday?
So you said the parents are always busy, so why again affect their weekends? Thank you.
Do you concede on parents' incentive to provide a moral compass in the presence of permissiveness, to remove it, the incentive for them to remove it?
The parent who is busy is going to go for that advice and will ignore it because of the busyness that this person has to provide for the family. So we believe that the children will keep on controlling these parents.
Thank you very much. Do you understand that the provision of a mandatory holiday creates an urgency for the parents where they'll be inclined to find out its importance? As in, why are they making this mandatory? It means it's important. That's the urgency to ensure that moral compass.
Thank you, our dear judges. That's why these holidays still exist, because they are mandatory and we know the instance that is there. Thank you, our dear judges.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, I have one question to ask the negative side. Do you understand that the provision of a mandatory holiday creates an urgency for parents, and they'll be inclined to find out in which way? The parents, by the time they're being forced to leave their workplaces, by the time the workplace has been closed, they are going to be informed on why they're leaving the workplace. They cannot tell you to stop going to work because you don't know what you're going to do at home. They tell you you're going to go home to have mandatory time with your kids, and the same thing is told to the children. Moving on, what are the major clashes in this debate? We clashed on how the different worlds look like, the distance, the finances, the urgency, and the discussion as the questions they posed that we could win this debate. Let me show you how we're going to answer them and beat them at this, and how we win this debate. Now let's first focus on the holidays, right? They claim that the holidays are enough time, but we've told from our first to our second speech that the holidays are where parents actually working. Most parents work in the holidays, and let's take them at their best and say that some parents are free, right? The parents who are free are still not going to have the incentive to take care of their children because they do not know why that time is being there. They'll just go there, provide the money, go out, but they won't necessarily connect. Now, mandatory parent to child time is when they actually go and interact with each other. Not going out, not going to the beach, but actually interacting with each other. Moving on to the point of distance. They claim that we not even address the point of distance. Just we have addressed it from our first and second speech and said that the distance is catered for through online learning. So in case you're in a boarding school, you are going to be online and talk to your parents. Therefore, on the weekend, you can still talk to your parents. Now, the same on the thing of finances. We concede to the fact that there's an opportunity cost and the parents are going to be losing out. But they are the reason why they wake up in the morning and go to work is for their children. So if they're not connected to their children in any way, they then why are they working in the first place? They are very much incentivized to lose that little amount of money, and even though they'll still be working shifts in some cases. Moving on. On their problem, they bring the model of, in their world, they want to paint the picture that counseling and guidance beats the parent. We have to know that the parent is the basic provider of emotional support and everything. How can the child possibly trust a stranger before trusting someone who literally gave birth to them? That is not possible, and therefore it falls out of this debate. Their model has failed to prove how and why it solves the problem. Now, this is why we have won. We have told you that this problem is caused by absentee parenting, and our case solves that in a way that we are going to be building the connection, and therefore it's going to build that child's self-esteem. It's going to be able to encourage their moral compass to develop. It's going to be making the parents role to be known to the child. It is going to enable them to stay out of bad peer groups, because essentially when the parent connects with the child, they have a very big role they play in the child's life, because they look up to the children. Children necessarily depend on their parents for the basis of actually connecting. They are their sole, let's say, moral supporters. If you do not have that moral support, they don't move on. Now, they claim that they are distractions. They consider the fact that, yes, the children are going to be distracted at some point, right? But let's see, because they are mandatory holidays, right? They're going to be forced to find out that my child is distracted by her cell phone, the TV. And maybe they'll integrate themselves in these distractions. Like they can play video games together, they can be on the phone together, and this is why side proposition takes this debate. Thank you.
The panel, the antagonistic bodies and the house at large. My dear judges, I want to thank you for this time that you have given. My dear judges, I will start directly to their clash points in this debate, my dear judges. Team opposition basically comes up with an alternative mandatory guiding and counseling, my dear judges, which is going to be followed up by the government, my dear judges, because team opposition presents a case where they want to raise more upright citizens, my dear judges, and then emotional upright citizen. But my dear judges, as team opposition, my dear, we believe that these parents are not having enough time during holidays to cater for this, to offer this to their children, my dear judges. And then we told you that these parents are daily income earners, my dear judges, and the only time they have to spend with their children is during the festive holidays, my dear judges, as mentioned by the second speaker, my dear judges. Then mandatory guiding and counseling is going to be followed up, my dear judges, which means it's going to be more effective, because how are we sure that parents are going to guide and counsel their children? What is the effectiveness? Team proposition has failed to basically tell us the effectiveness. They have not told us that the government is going to follow up. So how are we sure that the parents are going to guide and counsel these children, or the children who are too permissive are going to use them as distraction, my dear judges? Team proposition basically failed to do that. And then, my dear judges, on the issue of bonding, my dear judges, team proposition comes here and tells that there is a need for parents to bond with their children. But what do we tell them? There are festive holidays, and even actually told them that holidays cannot be used as bonding time, because The first speaker acknowledged the fact that most Ugandans are daily income earners, my dear, and they work for the day, my dear, and the time they have is festive season, which means that the holidays, even though the children go back to homes during the holidays, my dear, it will be less effective. Instead, they will just have distractions, getting exposed to the outside world, my dear judges. We explained to them the COVID-19 saga, my dear judges. What happened when these children were totally left in the control of their parents for a long period of time? And what did Team Proposition have to say about that? Nothing, my dear judges. We beat them on the position of effectiveness, and then the COVID-19 saga, which they have not come here to rebut, my dear judges. And then they have talked about the absenteeism of parents, my dear. We told them these parents are always absent in the festive season, and then we posed a question to them that, do you want these parents to leave work because they are daily income earners? Who is going to provide food? Because they are the one who are supposed to provide. They are looking for school fees for their children. So let them stop looking for money and then guide and cancel these children. And yet these children can be cancelled from school, my dear judges. Which one is better, my dear judges? Which one is better, my dear judges? And then, my dear judges, they were talking about online. That, so my dear judges, they were deviating us from the motion. It's talking to your parents through online in a mandatory way, my dear judges. Team Proposition was basically running away from the motion, my dear, because I'm at school. Even now, my dear judges, we still talk to our parents. So they were talking about online session, my dear judges, and those mandatory days, my dear judges. And then, my dear, we believe that Team Opposition basically wins this debate on major factors as given below. One, the effectiveness, because ours is going to be followed up by the government, my dear. Theirs won't be followed up. We don't know whether these children will be guided. And then, my dear judges, what happened in the COVID-19 saga when we left these children totally left with their parents, my dear judges? A total mess. Children got pregnant, my dear judges. So are we going to leave these children to go at home and be there alone, my dear, because their parents will be at work? Who's going to guide and counsel them? What is the urgency, my dear judges? With all this said, I believe Team Opposition presents the better case in this debate and wins tonight's debate. I rest my case.